Welcome back to My Life Matters Grief and PTSD Forum. Again, I am so glad that you're here. In this particular session, we'll talk about the stages of grief. Sometimes when you're grieving, you wonder, is this ever going to end? We'll talk about how long grief lasts. How do you know when you need some help and what to do? Let's get into the session. God bless. Remember, no matter where you are in life, no matter what's facing you, your life matters to God and to us. There is a graphic, and I want you to talk to this a little bit. There is a graphic that I love. It's called the ball of grief. And it's this gnarly yarn thing. I wanted to put it up because it's got like anger, joy, laughter, sobbing, forgetfulness. It's all this stuff. And what I love about that graphic is, because this stuff just comes whenever it comes. That's the craziness of grief. You think you're losing your mind sometimes because it just comes. You could be cracking up and then you're crying. And so you think, or you're laughing and you feel guilty because you're laughing because you feel like, oh, I should be crying. Does anybody relate to me? So you feel like, but I'm supposed to still be grieving. But it just kind of comes and it has to kind of work its way out of your system. And that's why I love that. Can you just one more time, I know there's some controversy about what the stages of grief are, but just real briefly give us a little bit of what those stages are so people can be familiar with them, and then I've got to move on.
The stages of grief, people would say, is denial, shock when it first happened. You're overwhelmed. You're like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, is this surreal? And then also along with that is isolation. And then the next stage would be anger. Like you get really, once you realize that, man, this is real. Like now I'm angry, right? Now I'm really upset. And then you begin to bargain like, man, maybe if I would have did this, or maybe if I serve more, maybe if I just give me one more chance with my father, or, so you kind of in your mind, and even maybe talk with some people, or maybe even talk with God back and forth, like, okay, God, no, you can do it all. You pacing the floor, you could bring, and we really have that bargaining with God. And then also, after the bargaining piece is depression, because then it really gets to sit in like, wow, this is happening. Like, I tried to bargain, but it didn't work. Like, he's not coming back. And then there's finally acceptance. But this thing is fluid. It's not like you go from one step to the next step to the next step. It's very fluid. You may be at one step one day, and you may be angry. You may accepted it, but then you back at anger because now you just can't believe this is happening. So those are some of the stages of grief. But keep in mind that there's no time frame to how long you're supposed to be at each stage, and that the stages can be fluid.
And that was my next question. How long does this grief last?
As you mentioned that, there's a particular time frame, and some people everybody manage grief differently. Right. And number two is that, do you have support systems in your life? Number three, are you getting therapy? And so it just varies. And then sometimes our spiritual beliefs impact how we see grief as well. And sometimes we'll tell people, hey, you know what, just get over that. And I prayed for you. I'm not gonna pray for you again. You ain't got enough faith, and as if it's a faith issue. And sometimes people feel like, okay, if I don't have enough faith to get over this grief, or I'm not spiritually strong enough. But that time frame varies for every individual. And sometimes for some people that they may be doing very well one day, and then all of a sudden there's a trigger. And you come across a particular trigger, particular situation, somebody says, and now all these feelings come up again. And sometimes we may not understand that the feelings may come, but we don't have to stay stuck in those feelings. And so and that's why education is so important when it comes to grief and your process, because when the feelings come, it don't have to immobilize you, that you're stuck that day and in that moment. You feel a moment and you move through. It doesn't mean you went back. It doesn't mean you done or not done. Sometimes it's just a moment. And you have to be able to accept it for that. It's the moment. And if I need to have that moment alone, then I need to take that moment and step back. And even sometimes as a counselor, you can be counseling somebody and your grief comes up. You're like in the middle of a counseling session. Something somebody says, something somebody does, and that counselor is all of a sudden you're fighting back emotions. And you're like, man, I'm trying to help somebody, but right now I'm struggling. But that's why clinical supervision or those other things you need to have in place to support you. So,
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you'd like to connect with us, you can do so at ChristyMinger.com, or you can catch us across social media at the addresses listed below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. God bless and have a wonderful day.